Thank you, friends. Thank you all for being here. I wonder if, Kate, you'd like to start, talk a bit about what motivated you with your article.
Yeah, yes, you might wonder, why would I write about fear? Well, that's not a very nice thing to think about. And the reason I wrote the article was because I had become increasingly aware of how my fear of, almost had a fear of, I've had lots of fears all the way through my life. I'm just that sort of person. But very specifically in my spiritual journey, I could feel that a sense of a threshold, and often coming up to that threshold, peering through it, but not having the courage to step through and to meet whatever was on the other side. And that was really frustrating, I have to say, and has been. And then I had an experience whilst I was, since I've been 60, I've been doing a couple of spiritual development courses, one, the Soul of Leadership, which is partly Quaker run, and the other, the Kentigern School of Contemplation, which is run through the Diocese of Carlisle with the Sacred Space Foundation. And it was on one of those weekends that I went off into the mountains and was really wanting to be present with God, with the Spirit, with whatever was there. And all of a sudden, I could feel myself going over this threshold. And suddenly I was overwhelmed by this incredible, was it energy and emotion and anger, actually. I had this huge experience of feeling furious that I've been abandoned, which is possibly one of my core fears anyway, but suddenly it came out in relation to God. And that went on. Fortunately, it was a bit of a wet day, wet and windy. There wasn't anyone else out on the mountain. So I had the space to myself to really let rip. And this sort of conversation went on for some time with my anger and distress, until I realized I hadn't been abandoned. The reassurance that I'm here, I've always been here, came to me. And eventually I was able to carry on back down the valley. But that always gave me a real sense of what stepping over the threshold felt like. And since then, some of the other sort of stories that I've mentioned in my talk about sort of being able to take perspective, starting to think, well, what would it be like? I feel the fear that I'm looking at the situation and it's from a point of fear. What would it be like if I was to move to a position of love, of trust, and to look at it from that perspective? What might I then see? And I've started practicing that a lot more, together with that, the centering prayer that one of the other contributors to the French Quarterly wrote about, which is really useful to see described. So it really got me thinking about fear. And when an emotion is really difficult, it seems incredibly important to go towards it rather than try and push it away. I spend a lot of time with my clients trying to help them not get rid of things that they don't like, but to bring it inside and accept it and make friends with it. And I guess that's what I'm doing in this article, is trying to sort of have a good look at what fear really is, what it does for us, how it protects us, but also how we can turn it down, and for me at least, and manage our relationship to fear, because actually that's really what matters, is our relationship as opposed to fear itself. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, definitely. I think it's very interesting that you talk about fear and the idea that can be quite a difficult emotion to manage, because Priscilla also writes about what some might think is like quite an opposite feeling or experience of love, and that can also be fraught with vulnerability in its own way. So I wonder if, Priscilla, you could also just open up at the start a bit about what brought you to write your article and how you kind of think about defining and recognizing love.
Along with personal love, there's also three other levels that we live at all the time that interact together. And I don't know if you can see all the screen because there's bits and pieces, isn't there, shuttering it out. But it says bodies in material relations with nature. And so we live embodied lives from the start. And in many ways, particularly the medieval people sought in images because so few of them could read, so that they were surrounded, walls, paintings, statues, tapestries, with beautiful paintings and pictures of human life that depicted divine life and remind us that love is not always easy. It can demand everything. As well as bodies in relation to nature, all the time we're interacting with the physical world and we're honouring and loving it or not. And we now have a choice to cooperate or perish. And so we need to think all the time of ourselves as physical beings, part of nature, interacting with it, using it, helping it, or hindering it. There's a picture here of a prison riot, because I was hearing that for 20 years, it's been proved several times that giving prisoners food supplements can help to reduce the numbers of violent prison riots. And again, this reminds us that our emotions, our relationships, our achievements, our health are intimately bound up with the food we eat, the fluids we drink, the air we breathe. And so helping people with difficulties just by talking might be counterproductive when they're being very distressed by certain types of food they're eating or something. So with helping people to solve their problems, it's a matter of looking broadly at different aspects of their lives and the physical. Now, the second is the interpersonal relationships. And I've been in schools where children have worked together to resolve and prevent interpersonal problems. So they have circle time. This is from 7 years upwards. Circle time. Some children are bully busters or guardian angels, and they rush to defend and help children in the playground who are having difficulties. Everyone is involved on their shared journeys, and their mental well-being is seen as co-created, a free resource that's central to our education for all and with all. Mental well-being is not only improved through time to talk with experts, all sorts of things can be done to improve our happiness and prevent our unhappiness, and to create loving schools and all other places that we meet in. Now, we meet in many, many social structures, the Quaker movement, the NHS, towns, communities, families, our workplaces. And these social structures and systems, hospitals and schools are empty buildings, aren't they? Until people come in and turn them into places of healing and learning. But to work, everyone has to trust, cooperate, take responsibility, show respect, and share skill and knowledge and plans. And it's very easy to disrupt and break up and fragment systems, fracture them, if we don't have these loving behaviours and intentions. And of course, the NHS reminds us that crucial to the system's working is not just the people, it's also the politics and the income, the funding. And again, people's well-being is so hugely related to funds, income, and the ability to feed and warm ourselves. This very recent graph from the Office for National Statistics picks out the median, the central average person in each of the 10th groups of the population, from the poorest group to the richest group. And within the richest group, the top 10% of them, the 1%, this shows their wealth at the moment, not just in income, but in pensions and property and finance. And you can see that the average for the top 10% is over 4 million, but for some of them, it's far, far, far more, like our Prime Minister. And at the bottom, people have nothing, they're in debt. And if we are thinking very seriously about everyone's well-being and saving them from terrible fear, anxiety, depression, we surely need to think about how to share our resources more equally. Someone said one of the worst experiences for parents is hearing their children crying at night when they can't sleep because they're hungry and they don't have enough bedclothes. And surely, if we're thinking about well-being and we're thinking about everyone's well-being, we have to take economics very, very seriously. And then we come to what we've been talking about earlier, personal inner being, and the possible idea that love is a kind of compass point, a magnetic North Pole that we are facing towards, or often unfortunately veering away from because we're worried, feel angry, feel betrayed, want to beat the other people, all sorts of things. But that doesn't make for happiness. And the Christian and Quaker idea surely is that we keep on trying to point towards the magnetic compass point of love. And I'm sure that we subconsciously judge almost everything. When we meet somebody new, we think, where are you on the compass of love? Do you like me, respect me, despise me? And we subconsciously form very intense ideas about other people, I think using this compass point, which can offer the measure and meaning in our lives. And the last one is the 3 levels of reality. And we think about real things, fear, love, our relationships, first of all by thinking and talking and experiencing them. We might write poems and songs about love or discuss it, the talking level. But then there's the actual being and doing level, the actual loving deeds and interactions, and also the actual structures and systems such as marriage or NHS care or a Quaker meeting. But underneath that, and very much unfortunately neglected because it's usually unseen, are the powerful causal influences that drive our lives, our desire to care, connect, create, help, protect and nurture, or our desire for goodness, justice, truth, equality, peace. These are all connected with love. And the philosopher who identified these 3 levels and taught a lot about them was always hoping for the eudaimonia, the happiness when everyone flourishes. Because until everyone flourishes, none of us can really flourish when we do that at the cost of other people's loss or suffering. So the questions I hope we might discuss tonight are about how embodied love maybe reveals spiritual and divine love. But also, do Quakers think love works through economic, national and international politics? Structures, of course, are our national governments, but also international politics, the United Nations, efforts at the moment to help the people in the earthquakes through all kinds of systems and structures. And also the question that my article began with, is love infinite? Is it the most powerful force of all? Maybe you think of more powerful forces.
So, Kate, did you want to suggest some topics that people might like to talk about as well in the breakout space? And then we will rely on friends to choose where they want to go. Kate, if you unmute, thank you.
Well, I think what I'm curious about is the relationship, our personal relationship to our spiritual journeys, whether it's our sense of love, our experiences of divine love, our experiences of fear, whatever the emotions are that really have affected us personally. So I think I would stand on that ground and yeah, invite people to consider some of the questions that Priscilla's suggested, but really bringing in their own personal take on that, how it's been for them and their own experience, because we have such powerful stories to tell of our own experiences in this, that we can, I mean, I think it's fascinating learning how people have become closer to the spirit as a way of, and however they've done that.
So it might be around how has fear affected your spiritual journey, or how has love affected your spiritual journey. Yeah. Okay.